And that's what Korea is currently facing. That's what Japan's currently facing. West China with their one-child policy.
Yeah.
They're also having the really bad brunt of it, right? Because now the girls that are there, particularly in China, where there's more men than there are women, the ladies that are there are refusing to marry the dudes that are there.
Hey guys, this is Anesu, aka Nyati Shonga. Hello, my name is Chido, aka Chizzy. Wagwan, Advocate Amanda here. Hi everyone, this is Kuda, aka Cooks. Hi, and welcome to As Told by Us, the podcast. This is a weekly podcast where 4 professional millennials discuss living in Zimbabwe and trying to figure life out. Someone once told us the grass is much greener on the other side. But from where we're standing, our grass is green. Subscribe, like, share, comment down below.
Today's dilemma is brought by none other than ReesaTeesa and her TikTok series, Who TF Did I Marry?
What is TF?
Who the fuck did I marry? For those who are hearing about the story for the first time, perhaps, and you don't have full time to watch it, this is a TikTok series. I must warn you, it is in 57 parts. We're not going to get into too much detail in summarizing it, but it's quite long. But if you find our conversation interesting around it, maybe go check it out because she tells it best. But this is a story by a lady named ReesaTeesa who took to TikTok to have a rant about her marriage. So this is a very brief summary of what happened. So she says that she met her ex-husband, who she calls Legion, throughout the series online in March 2020, right before the pandemic. They started dating, quarantined together during the pandemic. Reesa became pregnant during this time, but sadly later miscarried. They began looking for a house together. When they met, Reesa believed he was the regional manager of a major condiment company who got promoted to vice president. He also said he earned a lot of money playing arena football and had it in an offshore account. The couple get married in January 2021, but issues then start to arise when they attempted to put a down payment on a house. Every time they agreed on a house, something falls through. When asked for proof of funds, Legion is unable to provide them. When Reesa has to run a background check for her new job, she finds out that Legion was using a false social security number. When she gets his real one, she finds out that he's reportedly a former felon who was arrested for trespassing and impersonating an officer. He also lied about his job. He worked in the warehouse, not as the vice president or the regional manager, and does not have the money that he claimed to have. Reesa also reveals that Legion had showed her screenshots of his alleged bank account and pre-approval letter. These turned out to be false images. When she began to dig deeper into who Legion was, Reesa contacted Legion's ex-wife and discovered that her daughter, who Legion had said passed away, was actually alive and well. Reesa also contacted Legion's family and found out that none of them spoke to him and have all cut ties with him. She discovers the same thing when she speaks to his friends. She believed Legion was talking to them on the phone every day, but later realized he must have been talking to himself the entire time because everybody denied it. Reesa also says that Legion lied about the amount of siblings he had. She found he also had a twin brother who was actually the vice president of a company, drove a luxury car, and had a big house. All the things Legion claimed about himself. Oh, I didn't get to that part.
Oh, shit.
That's interesting.
Spoilanya, huh?
Spoilanya. Reesa also says that Legion lied about the amount of siblings he had. She found he also had a twin brother. Oh, wait, I just read that. Sorry. Reesa kicked him out of the house and filed for divorce. Legion continued to contact her and later ended up in jail after a warrant for his arrest was issued.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I
But
should
it
go
turned
finish.
out- okay, I won't spoil it
tell me.
It turned out that it was an old warrant or something like that. But you know how she had kicked him out of her house?
Yeah.
And then somebody was like, no, actually, until your divorce is finalized, you can still live in that house because it's your marital home. So he went back to the house wanting to go and stay with her. And then the cops were like, Teresa, look, you can't stop him because that's what the law says. And then now on the day that like this nigga Legion is coming, he's like, oh, I'm coming home. I'm coming home. Then the cops in her area were like, oh, hold on. We actually have a warrant out for his arrest. So that's how he got arrested, when he was trying to get back into her house.
Interesting. Okay, so I didn't finish it, but clearly you should finish it. I'll go finish it off. So Reesa ends the story by opening up about the devastating realizations that she had after the situation was over, and reflects on the lies and promises, including all the house viewings, making her test drive brand new cars, and planning to take her to London. She accepts he never loved her and says the level of cruelty is something that she has never experienced before. She also says she's made peace everything with the fact that she'll never know everything. So that's what we're about to do. We are going to reflect on that series and judge Reesa a little bit, and maybe give her advice on what we would say if this was our dilemma for the episode. So guys, we're talking to Reesa here. Who the fuck did I marry? And any potential or future ReesaTeesas out there. Firstly, I'm just interested, do you guys think this is like a likely thing to happen, or you know, just for you to marry a psychopath who's also a pathological liar and find out too late? What do you guys think about that? Do you think there should be enough signs for you to see before marrying somebody, or you know, sometimes you go in without really seeing the potential of what it could be, especially in these abusive or I guess liar type of narcissist relationships?
I think there are always signs. Because even just from watching the series, Reesa kept on saying, I should have known, right? Like the way she even, in retrospect, I suppose, she was like, shit, I should have known. Like, how come I never went to his office? I don't know. I feel like if you're dating someone or whatever, surely, or you're even married to them, surely you should at least know, like, where they work, right? How can he just kind of say, oh, well, point out to some building and say, oh, that's where I work? Amongst other things. I don't know. It's just like, but then again, looking back at it, there are signs that you kind of, if you don't think too deeply about, you could easily, I see how she could easily overlook them, because it's like, well, he has shown me his bank account. He has been paying for this, that, and the other. So surely he has money. It just, the house just fell through, right? Or like, oh, he goes out to work in the morning, comes back at night. Surely he's going to work, right? So, I think there are always signs, but it's one thing to see them, it's another thing to appreciate them for what they are, that they're actually like red flags.
Yeah. I think with Reesa's situation, I think it was difficult for her at the beginning to then vet him out because of COVID and all of that. And I don't here's me judging Reesa, but yo, girl, you're already marrying this guy and you've literally just like known each other for a few months. That's wild. But people are actually doing that. So I guess, the pressure for love is real, guys. The pressure for love is real. With what you're saying, Chido, I think it's difficult if you're someone who's got like, they've got marriage and a relationship on the forefront, and they're actually not like thinking, let me vet this person out properly. So it's more like when they first met, he was like, I'm looking for marriage. He's like, oh yes, this is the type of man I'm looking for. Because she's already like, I would assume she's experienced very hectic relationships prior to someone who's seemingly intentional. So now that's like your forefront. So you don't actually think, oh, let me actually find out about his family, it seems like he's telling me this, and this about his family. So she doesn't go into depth about, let me talk to your brother, let me talk to your sisters, let me find out this, and that. Because on the outside, it looks like it's normal.
Yeah, I think just remembering the series, I feel like her green flags and her push factors were things like, one, he was paying all the bills in the house. So she sort of had that attitude to say that, well, he's taking care of everything, so that means everything should check out. Two, her getting pregnant during the relationship. I think they moved in together and then she got pregnant. She even confesses that gave her a lot of pressure as a religious person. She attributes a lot of it to being a Christian and having believed that, now that she's having a baby with this guy, then marriage and whatnot is the next best thing.
Yeah.
Which I think is kind of sad, because I think it that kind of pressure sort of makes us ignore what should have been red flags. Although, I mean, his red flags weren't that obvious, because this is someone who, even you're talking about the family, he was faking conversations with family members.
Does that?
So that's like another level of, a cycle. I think for me also, I just have this, because you hear a lot about it, and especially with abusive situations. It doesn't seem like these people obviously are abusive from the jump. But when you get to a certain level or make a certain decision, then all of a sudden you start to discover, in quotation marks, these new traits. So, I don't know. Do you think there really is a formula of getting to know a person?
Especially someone who's that manipulative.
Yeah.
Because they're already like 2 steps ahead of you.
Yeah.
They know what they're going to lie to you about. So it's like, how can you tell?
I think if you're in that kind of situation, especially with a master manipulator, it's hard to get. It's hard because, as you said, they already have you in the palm of their hands already on day dot, right? Because immediately on their first date, like, she was so impressed by him. He put his best foot forward and he's like, I want marriage. And, she's like, yes, please. Already she's in the palm of his hand. And the next thing, he's building a story. He's building his web of lies around her. And she's just there.
But should you not trust the person you're with, right? So she obviously didn't dig, because she also doesn't want to be that person that's always like, let me check your phone, let me see who you're talking to, let me, She just wanted to trust that this person is the person that they are. No one wants to be in a relationship where you have to constantly verify everything that person is telling you. If he says, I'm going to work, now you're calling the manager. Did he show up to work today? If he says, I'm on the phone with my brother, now you're like, show me. When you're in a relationship with someone, surely you should trust them. You should have kind of a blind trust to know that this person is telling me the things that they're telling me, right? Now she's moved on to trust but verify. But even then, it's still, how far do you go to verify that your partner is telling you the truth? And why are you in a relationship where you have to doubt the words that this person is telling you?
The words.
Wait, was his name Legion? Was that his real name?
No. He was just a legion of liars.
Yeah. I was going to say that was the first red flag. Nigga's name was Legion. I can't trust a nigga named Legion. But anyway, besides that, I think the most painful thing for her was that she wanted to believe that.
Yeah.
So it was like, oh man, dang. I think she was just bummed. I think she knew, because come on, like some of these things.
Yeah, you'll be knowing.
You'll be knowing.
In the back of your mind, like, I'm in trouble.
Yeah.
I remember in the series, the first, that time when he's saying, oh, let's go buy a house and all of that. And then they asked for proof of funds. She actually says, I knew he was lying and I just wanted to see how he would get out of it. And I'm just like, oh, that's the time you were supposed to tell him to pack his bags. Not even dip, because he was living in her house. That's the time she should have been like, but I don't know, is that before or after the pregnancy? I can't remember. So maybe that was what was pushing.
That was after.
It was after.
Yeah.
The house thing. No, it was during.
No, but
Because
when
the
she
time she
knew he
was
was
pregnant.
lying, when she knew he was now lying for real, was after.
Oh, so it was just the gross.
Because before then,
With the house
he had
thing.
taken her house hunting before, and everything had fallen through. Then she and then she said, you know what, I don't want this anymore. Got pregnant. Then after that, he was like, oh, let's try again for another house. I think after her pregnancy, then she's like, you know what, this nigga is
Also,
I'm
guys, be
over it.
careful of men who are trying to tick all your boxes when you give them a list of what you're expecting. Because this guy was dangling houses and cars the whole time they were together because he knew that's really what she wanted. She wanted marriage, a nice big house with a picket fence and whatever. And they were supposed to be this power couple. He was like, it's okay, I'll keep dangling these things. I don't have them, but yeah.
I have a question though. How do you prevent a situation like this? As a woman, like from Reesa's perspective, how can you possibly prevent a situation like this? Because I feel like the odds were already kind of stacked against her in a way.
I think it's like what Anes was saying, and there's this thing that's been going around about decentering men from your life, and I think that's really the how. Because if you're in a state where you're like so fixed on the idea of being married and this and that, and you've painted a picture, you become vulnerable, like what Anesu was saying, because it just means you've given someone the blueprint to manipulate you. They know what to say. Like, it's when people get into a space of saying, oh, well, say that you love me. And then if someone says that I love you, then you're going to give them basically whatever they want. And I think for me, that's a source of weakness, because you're never going to change a narcissist or a person like that, but you do sort of have control of what you allow and how you allow people to treat you. And you really need to be conscious of what is it that you are looking for and how important have you made it, to the extent that you're not okay without maybe getting married at a certain age or having your situation look a certain way. I think it takes a lot of bravery, especially when you're pregnant with someone and you feel like you can start to see issues. I think it takes a lot of bravery to say that, look, I'm so focused on who I am and what I want that I'm not going to be swayed when this person dangles XYZ, because I need things that are tangible. So yeah, you can't really prevent how people are going to treat you, but I think all you can do is be a bit more conscious of yourself and protect yourself and make sure you're not so desperate for something that's not there, that you end up believing in a fantasy or wanting to believe in a fantasy more than actually taking responsibility for your life. And
I also think she needed to obviously take her time, but I do understand COVID. You just met this great guy. Now you're like, wouldn't it be fun we lived together, right? Ideally, it should be cute, but like, obviously the results were crazy, right? But I definitely think had she spent more time with him before getting pregnant, before even getting married, there was no reason for them to get married. Especially by the time they got married, she had already lost the kid. There was no reason for them to get married at all, besides the fact that she really wanted to be married, right? She really should have taken a bit more time with him now that the pressure of not having a baby, it was gone now. So there was no reason, like I'm saying, there was no reason for them to get married. So had they just taken a bit more time together and sussed each other out, I actually think it was godsend that they lived together rather than separately. Because I know, when you live with someone, you really get to know them a lot more than if you spend 2 or 3 hours every weekend together. You don't really know this person. So I think she actually got blessed in that they did end up living together, and then she started noticing like, something's off and something's not right. But I also think she had a lot of her own personal trauma that she was carrying. There's parts of it where she said she also grew up quite poor and she's always had to struggle. So here comes a guy who's taking away your bills and he's treating you well, but you still haven't healed from the things that have traumatized you. So now when he was love bombing her, she was really taken by it. But I think had she had a bit of more independence, she would have been able to think more clearly.
Okay, so what I'm getting from this is don't be so desperate. I think that's basically what I'm getting from it. Like I think it's good to bide your time. Is that the right terminology? But anyway, take your time with it. And I think she even said it, like, don't be so, like, she admitted to being desperate for marriage. And Amma, I think what you said is tying in very beautifully with what our topic for today is. You spoke about just now decentering men from our lives as women, right? And so our topic for today, we actually got from one of our listeners. Shout out, Savannah. Savannah Robinson, shout out. So her topic is, her suggestion was we talk about the cost of social reproductive labor, how modern women are protesting misogynistic society through staying single and not having kids. Yeah, it's a big one, but I think it, like what you said, Amma, decentering, is that the word you used? Decentering men from our lives as women. I think that's the movement that's currently ongoing around the world, where women are just like, you know what, I'm not so desperate for marriage. I'm not desperate to have kids. Like, I'm desperate to get my bag. I'm desperate to be independent and. So do you guys think that that's something, one, that you subscribe to, and two, that's possible in the African context or in Zim? Like, is that a thing?
It's a tricky chat, and I know as a man, it's going to be quite interesting that I'm actually going to chime in this early on this topic because I was going to be quiet. But I actually feel like it's kind of dope, you know, because sometimes because there's an assumption that women want to get married by a certain time and stuff like that, it's actually sometimes like a kind of a put-off. Right, I'm just speaking from man's perspective, right?
Really?
Yeah.
An experience.
Anyway. Yeah. There are certain times when you kind of just want like someone who has their own thing going on, a woman who's like got her life figured out, she's doing her own thing, and like I'm not necessarily the like center of it, and it's not like this whole every little thing is a campaign towards marriage, every little conversation. It's like, yo, okay, oh, you're killing it at work, dope, you're doing your thing, dope, and then eventually, you know, if you guys feel right, you get together and stuff like that. But then I feel like sometimes when I feel like I'm the center and the all of that, it's like, I don't know. I know there's some, you know, narcissists and who drive, like, and we all have like those immature phases. But at some point, it's just like, yo, come on. Like, so I think it's a cool movement.
Question: why do we think that women are striking from marriage and having babies?
It's a form of protest, I think.
What are we protesting against?
I think it's not against marriage and having babies, but I think it's almost like an awakening of women and striking against the culture of the pressure and this idea that if you don't get married and have babies, then there's something wrong with you or there's something wrong with your life. I think it's almost like a taking back, because if we look at the reality of the modern woman or the modern situation, I think we've gotten to an era where it's like, I guess, where are we in terms of feminism? I think we're now postmodern or whatever you call this particular wave. The reality on the ground is that more women have the financial freedom to make certain decisions about their own lives, which is something that's new to our generation, because previous generations, marriage and having children wasn't an issue of choice. It was an issue of survival. It was an economic situation to say that I need to be in this setup because this is how the economy provides for a woman. I'm not recognized in the workplace. I'm not recognized as able to create a life that's outside of a man. And I think it's now the continuing resistance of that order of things, which, I don't know, at the same time, while there's some talk about it, I don't think realistically there is that heavy of a movement. Maybe if I look at it from a Zim perspective, I feel like we're still in the regions of still having pressure for marriage and childbearing and a situation. And to me, honestly, I think it ties, there's a fixed relationship between that and your financial freedom. I think it all comes down
deeper,
to that.
Mama.
Because, you know, a woman having her own money is something that's a bit new and it's something that's also rare. I find that the freedom that I got personally as a person probably kicked in at like in my mid-20s. And this is when I had finished school and gotten a job and moved out of my parents' house. And that was only because I moved cities. I think if I was still at home, I'd probably still be there. And I remember sitting, you know, in my apartment and thinking, wow, this is the first time I've owned my life. What I'm going to eat tonight, where I'm going tomorrow, what I'm going to do and, you know, with myself is now fully my choice. And this is the first time I have that feeling, like in the mid-20s. So I think it's another phase of feminism where it's now like we're a generation where it's like, okay, you guys can actually go to school and wear pants and work. So now what?
Yep.
And it's also like just jumping off your financial freedom thing, with a lot of videos that I've seen about this movement. It's from like American ladies and they're like of a certain age. And you're thinking, okay, I now know that I can make this much money a year and I want to spend it traveling. I want to spend it buying specific things that I want for my life. And I don't necessarily want to have kids and spend the money on them. I do agree that the movement it hasn't hit home. It hasn't hit them yet. But there are like a few people I know who are at that stage, who are saying, no, I don't think I've reached a certain age and I'm realizing I don't need a husband and I don't want the kids. So I want to spend my money on a holiday. I want to spend my money on helping my family send kids to school or whatever. And sadly, here it's because you're in the minority, you then get a lot of like criticism and backlash from society. Even on social media, you hear people going, what does she know? And you're like, well, she's kind of having holidays in New York, bro. Like her career is way, way up there. And it's because fortunately, she's chosen a route where kids and husband aren't in the picture. And that's why she's getting to where she's getting to. But sadly, we don't really see that. In Zim, it's more, what's wrong with you? Like Amanda said. It's, well, why can't you have a husband and kids?
Just to also pick up from what you were saying, and I actually know people personally, some who live overseas who, while in their like getting to their 50s, never been married, don't have children, and are absolutely okay and happy happy with their lives, they're always traveling, like Europe, wherever, Mexico, what, like just living their best life. And then I think that's okay, that's celebrated overseas. It's like, you go, get your bag, like do you, nobody's gonna judge you. But when you come here and you're doing exactly the same thing, there's a stigma. It's like people will always question your decisions. Why did she do this? Oh, it's because she doesn't have a husband who could have advised her otherwise. So I think it's also difficult, and I think just even that societal pressure for women who have chosen to be unmarried and to not have kids, I think they also kind of feel the pressure and sometimes feel a bit like suffocated by that, to say like, maybe sometimes I do wish I had a family to enjoy these trips with, or to, do this, that, and the other with. So all of this to say, it's a celebrated movement overseas, but here it's just, I think we're not there yet as Africans. Just our mentality is still very like, as a woman by a certain age, surely you should be married, surely you should have kids.
I want to disagree. I think statistically the movement isn't into, right? Societally, maybe it's not celebrated, but it does not defeat the numbers. I feel like women in STEM are marrying later than they used to. The numbers of children that we're having, no one's having 10 plus kids. No one's even having 4 plus kids. I think right now our average is at, what, I don't know, they call it like 2.1. It's like 2.1, but I don't know what 1 means, but it's like 2.1 is our birth rate, right?
Yeah, like some like many threes, but not that.
Exactly. So there's, right now the average is 2 kids maybe, right? And I generally think that in Africa in general, South Africa too, they're also at 2.1 from 2.3, something like that, right? And then the numbers of deaths are high. So like the death rate, particularly obviously of like the older generation. So there will come a point 20 years from now where there is no children and also no old people. And then there's just no world. Right, and that's what Korea is currently facing. That's what Japan's currently facing. West China with their one-child policy. Yeah, they are also having the really bad brunt of it, right? Because now the girls that are there, particularly in China, where there's more men than there are women, the ladies that are there are refusing to marry the dudes that are there. Right, so there's just going to see a non-continuance of society the way that we're going.
I'm not mad at it.
I'm not angry either. But I guess now the question then is, fine, we've taken, quote unquote, we've taken our power back. We've decided we don't want to marry these bras, or we're now more picky about the bras that we marry and the amount of kids that we have, because financially anyway, the cost of living is so much higher. So even if I wanted to have 5 children, I just financially cannot. But then, is it our responsibility, now looking at society at large, that there is a very real possibility of extinction? Is it the woman's responsibility to now start birthing kids?
I think extinction, I'd like to think about it in more than just the existence of a population, but I think also an existence of a culture, an existence of a people. I think that's how I'd also like to think about it. Just to carry on from Kuda's question. I think the responsibility of women has always been carried. We have been heightened to that responsibility to the extent that what the movement is against, in my eyes, is that idea that you don't have a life, you don't have any existence. You go from being someone's daughter to somebody's wife to somebody's mother, and you're expected this hugely sacrificial role for the rest of your life that you carry with pride as a woman until you die, and that's it. There's no space for anything else outside of that. If you look at, the most ambitious kind of pursuits, a man can say, I want to be the wealthiest man in the world, but a woman saying, I want to be the wealthiest woman in the world, it's more like, you're, one, it's a joke, and secondly, it's seen as a selfish pursuit. So I don't like that idea of us being responsible in that sense, because it's taken so much of your individual choice. And to me, that's what this is, because, naturally, I think the majority of women, given the choice to say, what is your ideal, there's a fair number that would choose the marriage and the kids and wanting to raise their kids, and that's really what would make her happy. I think the existence of that choice can never be under threat, because while we have this movement, there's also the trad wife movement that's also there countering, that's still there, where it's, this, for some call it elitist, but it's this glamorization of, your traditional wife who keeps a home. The idea of a kept woman is quite strong, especially in the Arab community. You'll find that, women are empowered, if not perfectly happy with the life where they're taken care of by their husband. They continue that. And I think that's so innate in women that we're never at a danger of losing it. I think the cry is that it's not for everybody, and it's not going to happen for everybody in the way that is imagined by society. And there just needs to be that wriggle room to say that I might have a life that looks different, and that doesn't make me less. I should still be able to thrive without feeling like, there's something wrong with me. Like, so many things can happen. You cannot meet your soulmate until you're like in your 40s, or maybe you don't, whatever a soulmate is. What if you like women? What if you are unable to bear kids, or you just don't want to? Maybe you just have so much going on, whether it's trauma or whatnot, that makes you feel like I'm not ready or fit to do this, or even just interested. And I think it's more like wanting that choice rather than there being a norm at the end of the day that everyone has to follow.
Speaking of choice, can we just maybe go around? I'm just curious to know, like, what do you want? Like, do you want to be a wife at home with your babies? Do you want to be like single and no kid? Like, what do you want? Is that a difficult question to ask?
No,
Not really.
I think I would want the more traditional side of things, where I've got a husband and I have my 2.1 children, and probably not to work as much, like have some wriggle room as to how I'm able to work and how I'm able to make my own money. But I would say, like what Kuda was saying, like, is it women's responsibility? I feel like guys don't have that pressure. Like, they're not there thinking, oh, I want to help this girl get to her traditional fantasy. So I want to be that guy who's providing and all of that and what. So it's difficult to find someone who is able to meet all the things I'm looking for. So I wouldn't mind then becoming a Vivica A. Fox. I don't know if you guys saw that speech. Someone had asked, it was like a public thing, and someone had asked her, babes, why haven't you had like kids all this time and whatever? And everyone in the crowd was like, yo, how can she ask that? And Vivica was like, okay, the truth is that I did get married at some point. Well, she actually said, I met someone and I thought we were on the way to marriage, and then it didn't work out. And I realized I'm not going to have kids with someone that I don't respect or feel like they would fit into that mold. And you see, now she's old. Now she's like 50, 60 or whatever. And she just didn't compromise on that. So that's my dream. That's my dream, to have like that traditional thing and whatever. But I wouldn't compromise having a stable family unit just because I want one. Does that make sense?
So like the Reesa thing, going back to Reesa, so you want that traditional, I'm a married baby girl with your 2.1 kids. But you just
fence and the 700K house.
But you're not going to settle for anything less than.
Yeah. So if it does happen that I'm 40 and 50 and whatever and I can't have kids, I'll be like, okay, that's my path.
Yeah.
I'm not going to force anything.
I think what was actually interesting about the birth strike and the marriage strike is that it's not that women don't want to get married. It's just the caliber of niggas, men. The caliber of men is really shoddy. And now we're getting to that point where it's just, I don't need this, and I'm not going to just get married just to get married, just to say I've been married, right? So a lot of the issues were, we can't live in a society where we're also expected to work, also expected to be the mom, also expected to be the wife, also expected to do everything. It's too much. I'm not doing it, right? I'm going to pick what then satisfies me and what I know I'm able and capable to do. And if then that means having to sacrifice not having the children that I want, or having children on my own without the husband, because I can't also serve this man who's also violent, who's also not kind, who's also rude, who's also, listen, I can't do it, right? Yeah. So I definitely think the women have changed so much, and I think we've progressed so much, and the men have sort of, they're stuck.
Stagnant.
Right? They're stuck in this patriarchy thing where it would be wonderful if you meet someone who's able to help with the childcare, who's able to clean and cook, who's able to also run the household, right? Then that will be the most perfect situation, because then we can both work, we can both take care of the kids, we can both pay the bills. But if I have to do all of it on my own, then no thanks.
Yeah. I think just to answer Chido's question, I agree with Kuda. I wanted all, and also I guess what Anesu said. I want the whole thing. I am really into the idea of having the space to discover this as I go along. Because if you were to ask me this, honestly, even 2 years ago or 3 years ago, I would have probably said, I'm not about that. I'm doing me. This is my vision for my life. If somebody comes along, my condition is that they must make this that I'm doing better. And if it's not better than what I'm experiencing and what I'm giving to myself right now and what I'm working for myself right now, then screw that guy. I don't want to hear it. And I had that. I think I had gone through a lot of different ideas of what I would have wanted, but I think there was a lot of, hype on romantic relationships. I think, with our generation, we started hearing and doing this stuff pretty young. And to me, pretty young is high school. Nowadays, it's even younger than that. But I too was of the idea of finding a soulmate and then having this pairing forever. And then at that point that I'm talking about 3 years ago, it was more of that thing is nice, but it's not all that I need. And I can't live a life where I'm sitting and waiting for that. It's not enough. And I guess this is a perfect time for a little As Told By Us announcement. Because most of our listeners either know us or know someone who knows us. So we think for now, at least, it's a very tight-knit community. So we have a little bit of news. I happened to get engaged about 2 weeks ago. And at least I'm happy to say that it's in line with what I would have said 3 years ago, where it's like, look, I'm so done with this. I'm not looking for anything. This is the life I want to create for myself, and it would be nice to do it with somebody, but if they don't come here and make me feel like this is better with them, then I don't want it. And so looking maybe say for me now and, 3 years to come, and also me just having been engaged to somebody, I want that. I want a team. I want to have space for self-expression, but then just do it with somebody who's also doing something similar. I want to, honestly, right now, I feel like it's this choice that we're given to say, are you going to pursue a career or are you going to pursue a family? Where it's like, it's either one or the other. And we, even this question that we're answering now is more like a choice. And I want to have everything. I want to have a bit of all. I want to have a satisfying career, because I went to school for a long time. I don't want to drop all of that now just because, now you're getting into a marriage, and then I don't want to lose who this person was. But at the same time, I know that I want to build a family and something that's new and will have its own identity. And my dream, to answer Chido's question, would be to have both, to be able to experience that life where if I feel like I want to go on an adventure, that shouldn't threaten the stability of my marriage. To say that, I want to grow parts of me while growing something in a unit, which is, it feels like a big dream, but I really hope that that's what I want going into it. So, yeah.
Chido, what do you want?
Oh, okay. So I think my answer is very similar to everybody. I also want that partnership with somebody who really understands me. I understand them. I want a life with somebody who, where we can foster each other's individualism. I don't know, because I'm very, not to say I'm selfish, but I'm
independent.
Yeah, and I want to remain that way. I want to grow as an individual while also creating something new with this partner, whether it's we're building wealth or we're raising a family together. I want that, but I also want everything that has to do with who Chido is, right? So I want to pursue all my dreams. I want to be with somebody who'll say, you know what, go for it. Whatever it is, go for it, because that it will make you happy. Somebody who will have your back at all times, and
if you don't get that person, are you okay with just being Chido on her own?
Yeah. I've come from a single-headed family, right? So I've seen how, it's possible. You don't necessarily, I feel already very empowered by just watching my mom be the mom that she is and did everything, still doing everything. So I feel it's not scary. It's not a scary thing for me. So if it happens that, I meet, I am married and have kids and we build this life together, that's great. But it needs to be a life where I also have a choice in what do I want to do. It's not always about, you have to let go of all your dreams for the sake of our kids. Because then I think, knowing the person I am, I will probably, it'll breed some kind of resentment in me. if it wasn't for these kids, man, like I could have been somewhere. I don't want to do that. Like I want a life where, as Amma said, I want it all. Yeah.
I think it's interesting that you mention your mom, because then now I thought of my own mom, and she is your textbook trad wife. And I've seen the bright and dark sides of that. I think one on the dark side is like what I spoke about earlier with relation to financial freedom, especially of women at that time when she would have gotten married. I can see how her life was, I think, her early life, she was fully trad wife. So it's more like she sort of had that role to play. But throughout that, I think she also had the curiosity of doing stuff on her own, where not everything is like literally, because, once someone is the financial head of the family, they become, the decision be all, you're not really a partnership. So you could see that in her, where she wants some form of independence. And it's changed so much from when I was a child to now, because now she's sort of matured into her marriage. All of us are grown up. And what does she do? She goes and studies and gets an MBA. Watching her go through that sort of made me realize, I think like what Shido said, that it's not scary. Where it's like, you think, oh, the downside is that I won't really get to build myself or whatever, but then maybe you're just doing it in a different order from somebody else. You're still going to get that time to express yourself once you've, moved past that stage of your marriage, and it's not going to be the same for everybody. So to me, I think that's quite a freeing thing to be like, well, it's not that scary. And also an acceptance that, your story is not going to be like Shido's story or Anesu's story, but it doesn't make it any, better or worse. It's just how your life is going to go. And I think that takes a lot of pressure off, because, you spend so much time thinking, what's wrong with me? I remember being in high school, especially like Form 1, Form 2, and it's like, why am I not talking to boys like other people are like, when people have like a boyfriend? No, because it becomes like the talk of the day. And you're a child discovering these things, and you think, okay, so I should be talking to boys, I should have a boyfriend, and then there's just that idea of something. And I think it took me a while to come out of, what am I supposed to do to what is it that I want? And I think that's the most important transition, because after that you realize that no matter how yours looks, whether it's the perfect, fairy tale wedding, or it's you raising a child on your own due to whatever circumstances, but like there's nothing wrong with it. It's just how your cards are unfolding.
Okay, everybody, that's a wrap.
Wait, what about your dream?
Yeah, what's your dream, MMV?
What's my dream? I'm really about people being the best versions of themselves. So it's cool to have like a trad wife who's at home and stuff, but like my whole thing is like I just want like, I kind of want to be like, my wife is my biggest fan. I'm her biggest fan. I'm like, whatever she's doing, I'm like, this is so cool. And it's like, so whether it's within what I do, it's completely different. I just want to show up and be there and be like, yo, you do the best that you can. I do the best that I can. Iron sharpen iron. That's like my ideal situation. If I don't end up getting married, though, at this point, I'm actually kind of cool with it. I'm like, it's calm. It's really calm. But then there's obviously societal pressures. Even for niggas, there's also, like, I'm finding out that apparently, like, there's a timeline, but anyway, it is what it is.
And that's a wrap.